What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for October 31st, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Happy Halloween to everyone out there. Hope your night is filled with lots of whatever your favorite candy is. Mine is Reese's. And honestly, it's Reese's Pieces. I like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, don't get me wrong. But Reese's Pieces may be, and I will die on this hill, may be the most underrated candy out there. Reese's Pieces. Nothing like a Reese's Pieces Blizzard from Dairy Queen or a Flurry, wherever you get, whatever they call it at your local ice cream shop. Reese's Pieces, top notch, but I hope you get all the candy you want and you're safe and you have a little bit of fun out there. Before we get into today's episode, a couple quick housekeeping notes. First, tomorrow's episode probably will be a little bit later than you're used to on a weekday. I am off of work. The kids are off of school, so might not be up as early as I normally am. So it might be more of a weekend schedule tomorrow. Just a little heads up. It'll still be up by like 9 o'clock. We have things to do, appointments and things like that. But if you're looking for it and you're used to getting it on your drive to work, might not be there quite in time. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word. Like I keep saying, if you're enjoying this, likely someone within your friends group will as well. Quick note from yesterday, I could not think of the guy that the Eagles traded for at the 2018 trade deadline. That was Golden Tate, who didn't really do much until that playoff game against the Bears. But I always like to make sure I'm giving you the facts. Couple quick announcements, I guess you could call this. This is not quite housekeeping. I mentioned this the other day, but I'm going to continue to keep doing it. We're about 2 weeks out from the start of the second annual This Day in Philly Sports History food and gift drive. We're teaming up with the Matty Ann Dixon Community Cupboard in Ambler again. Kind of a two-prong approach this year. I'll go into more details as it gets closer. We're going to do 2 weeks of gift cards, and then we'll do the reverse advent calendar like I did previously. I have a GoFundMe set up if that's easier for you to make the donations for gift cards. But last year, I'm looking to blow what we did out of the water, and we did a lot of good things last year. So details on that will be coming. And I'm pleased to announce that tomorrow, after all these months of teasing, I will have an announcement about the project I've been working on with the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So stay tuned to tomorrow's episode for details on that. All right, I guess let's start with the Sixers. That was an embarrassing loss. Much like the Toronto game, that was just pathetic. They just could not get it going. And much like that game, it is rebounding and shooting. They can't shoot, can't grab a rebound, and they got beat by Tobias Harris and the Detroit Pistons 105-95. Nobody could shoot except for Tyrese. Just they really missed Joe and PG. They were getting bullied around. It was, like I said, just an embarrassing loss. Tobias did get a little bit of a boo. Not as loud as we would expect for certain players, but I think a lot of that has to do with we're at this point just so apathetic to Tobias Harris. It's just like, yeah, whatever. And of course he had to be his give the iris and ear thing and whatnot, but whatever. But man, that was just a brutal loss. They're just not good right now. They're a hot mess. All the stuff with Joe, apparently they're playing the semantics game with the NBA. The word out was that his knee just wasn't. They didn't feel it was structurally strong enough to really start the season. So they just kind of are playing the game. What the end game is or why, I have no idea. So who knows when he'll be back. They're participating in a little bit of practice. I don't know. They have who do they have? Vancouver, I think. No, not Vancouver. Who do the Sixers have this weekend? Either way, no word yet on whether or not Joe's going to play for that. But just the organization right now, I hate to say it after I was just so high on them. Memphis on Saturday night. But I know I was just so high on the Sixers, but man, this organization is a mess right now. And Marcus Hayes, we're going to have a little bit of fun with the Back to the Future voice and text line today. There's an article in the Inquirer yesterday saying that the Sixers should give refunds to fans, basically because Joe is going to miss 17% of the games roughly, and that is if he doesn't get injured. But what are your thoughts on that? Should the Sixers either discount tickets or offer some kind of incentive to go to games knowing that there's a chance you're not going to see Joe? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Personally, I think it's a ridiculous premise. I had a Sunday Phillies package for like 4, 5, 6 years, and it's one of those things that Sunday in Major League Baseball, you don't tend to see a lot of the players. It's the days the guys get rest, and we knew that going in, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? I think it's just kind of buyer beware. I know it's probably not good business or good PR for the Sixers to really have this going on, but as I mentioned before, it happened to us when we were going down to a game. We found out as we were pulling into the parking lot that Joe wasn't playing, but we were there. You know, it's just, I don't know. I can see the point, but I don't. It's just buyer beware. I don't understand. It's one of those things. Like it sucks, but that's the risk, especially with this team, you have to take. But let me know your thoughts. Should the Sixers offer incentives or refunds for the games that Joe doesn't play? 267-495-8531. That will get you in. Flyers tonight versus the St. Louis down at the Center. Looking to keep that momentum from Boston going tonight. This would be a good win for them if they can win this one, because that would be 3 solid games in a row that they've played and won. So looking forward to that tonight in between all the trick-or-treating. All right. Hot stove season is here. The Dodgers completed the 4-1 beatdown of the Yankees yesterday. So we will soon start getting into, and I have a feeling this is going to be, parts of it are going to be fast moving. Other parts I think are going to drag out into the new year. But how are the Phillies going to rebound from the disappointment? We will soon find out as the Major League Baseball season is officially over. And I wanted to mention, and it's just frustrating. And yes, there's a lot of people that are saying how unacceptable and how bad this was. But going back to the other night when that Yankees fan, or both Yankees fans, grabbed Mookie Betts' arm and tried to pull the ball out of his glove, I cannot imagine what would have happened if that was in Philly. The fans would have been thrown in jail. They would have probably made us play games with no fans in the stadium. All of the stupid narratives about throwing snowballs at Santa and all of that would have come back up. And yet I see ESPN had a feature story on these two knuckleheads. Like, are you kidding me? These guys should be prosecuted. Like, borderline, could have broken his wrist, first of all. Second of all, there's law or rules in place that clearly state do not interfere and come onto the field of play. Like, and for them to be celebrated as heroes and just made out to be almost like they were the villains. What is wrong with this, with ESPN and people who are saying these guys are heroes? Like, no, like that's ridiculous. And then if Mookie Betts would have punched one of them and broken a nose or something like that, it would have been Mookie Betts' fault. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm sorry, and I know people are like, oh, get over yourself. You threw snowballs at Santa. But like, if this was in Philly, this would have been national news. The National Guard would have been called in. And yet we see it time and time again that these other markets, fans have way worse behavior. If you ever go out to LA or San Francisco for Chargers or Raiders Chargers game or Dodgers Padres, Dodgers Giants, people get stabbed in those stadiums, and you don't really hear much about it. But we throw snowballs at Santa back in 1968, and we still hear about it. It's just, I don't know what the national narrative is against Philly sports fans. And I just realized as I'm doing this is the second day in a row I'm going on a long-winded rant. Sorry, just certain things bother me. And the fact of the matter is that these knucklehead scumbags in New York are being celebrated by ESPN. Like, it's ridiculous. They should be in jail. Like, that is assault. Like, they could have broken the dude's wrist. And like, hey, we're cool. No, you're scumbags. Absolute scumbags. I'm glad your team lost. You deserve it. All right, enough of that rant. Be sure to check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. New football episode drops tomorrow. Season finale of the baseball episode drops. Football drops today. Baseball drops tomorrow. Be sure to check out the baseball one. You might see a familiar face on there. More on that tomorrow. But that is available wherever you get your podcast as well as on YouTube. And then be sure to go to Philly Goat. Get those cooler bags, man. Like I keep looking at them, and a lot of people have been reaching out. The collaboration with Varsity Coolers, these cooler bags are great. They have a duffel bag as well as a backpack. The backpack would have been great to have tonight for trick-or-treating. It's going to be 80 degrees, so definitely you're going to need ice in your coolers for your beers when you're out trick-or-treating, and that cooler is perfect. Go to Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery. Take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. They have lots of awesome shirts too, but go check out these cooler bags. All right, some Eagles news. Looks like Mekhi Becton will play on Sunday. He was back practicing in a limited fashion yesterday. Slay, Goddard, Jalen Carter, Landon Dickerson did not practice yesterday. Slay's still dealing with that groin. Goddard with the hamstring. I would suspect that the Carter is due to the shoulder thing, and he's been off and on in practice the past couple weeks with that, so I would imagine he would play. Not sure about Dickerson. We should get a clearer picture today. I wanted to mention this as well because I've seen a lot of these clips now over the past few days, and for all of the slack that he caught, if you can go and look at some of the clips of Nick Sirianni's pregame speeches, like the night before a game or even like after a game, he actually is a very good motivator. We got on him about the whole plant and the roots need to take hold and this and that, but just talking about keeping them together, it takes all of us, and just some of his messaging has been really good. So I know I was very, very hard on him a few weeks ago, and to be fair, rightfully so. But some of his speeches and everything, he does whatever he's doing. He's toned it down, like with on the sidelines and those antics, but he's grown, and like the speeches and the motivation he's providing these players is phenomenal. But it is Kelly Green week. Last time they wore the Kelly Green jerseys was that overtime win in Buffalo, when probably the best game that Jalen had played before last week. So hopefully the magic of the Kelly Greens come back. They're 2-0 so far since they have come back. So looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make the game this week, but we will be watching on TV. It is Lesean McCoy night, or day now. They are inducting him into the Eagles Hall of Fame. And it's sometimes easy to forget just how good Shady was. He's still the Eagles' all-time leading rusher. I remember vividly the snow game and just how the way he moved. It was like a different type of running back. Tough guy too. But it's easy to forget just how good Shady was. And that leads us to today's question of the day. Is Lesean McCoy top 5 Eagle all time? And this is a tough one because he's certainly top 10. I think that goes without question. But is Lesean McCoy a top 10 Eagle of all time? I think you have your Mount Rushmore of Reggie, Brian Dawkins, Donovan McNabb, and Chuck Bednarik. But then that fifth spot, I could certainly make a case for Lesean McCoy. You can make the case for Jason Kelce. You can make the case for Eric Allen. To me, it's those three guys would be the next three. I think you got to look at Lesean McCoy just because of what he was able to do. And even when he had bad games, they were still good for the most part. But what do you think? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Is Lesean McCoy a top 10 Eagle player of all time? I'm going yes. I'm putting him in over Jason Kelce. I'm putting him in over Eric Allen, although that pains me because I'm a huge Eric Allen fan, and I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. If you want to come at me and say Eric Allen should be number 5, I won't argue that. I will not argue it at all. But is Lesean McCoy a top 10 player in Eagles history? 267-495-8531. Vote on any of my social media. If you're listening on the Spotify app, all you have to do is click. You can click the button right there and get that in. But is Shady a top 5 player of all time for the Eagles? I'm going yes. I'm going to put him in slightly ahead of Eric Allen. But what do you think? Let me know and get anything else. You want to vent about the Sixers? Plenty to vent about with them. All of that is fair game. Let's have some fun on a Halloween on the Back to the Future voice and text line. And then to recap yesterday's question of the day, the rumors are rampant. Just so many different players are being linked to the Eagles. But it was a 50-50 split on whether the Eagles should be active during the trade deadline or stand pat. So thank you as always for participating in the question of the day. But let me know, Lesean McCoy, top 5 Eagle of all time, yes or no? My vote is yes. All right, Halloween. And usually Halloween in sports, I think of 3 big events that happen in Philly. Obviously, happy anniversary if you were there like I was. On this day back in 2008, it was the World Series parade. It was a beautiful day, a little bit cooler than what it's going to be today, but a beautiful day like today was going to be. And it was great because, if you remember, it rained that whole week. It was cold, it was chilly, and then the day of the parade was absolutely beautiful. And first experience at a parade, and it lived up to the expectations tenfold and really set the stage and the tone for the Eagles parade. But on this day in 2008, it was the Phillies World Series parade down Broad Street. And it was a Friday. It was Halloween. The weather was beautiful. You could not have asked for a better day for a parade. And then, of course, back in 1993, a not so good memory, 4:00 Eagles-Cowboys game. It was raining then too, and Emmitt Smith ran all over the Eagles at the Vet. I think, if I remember correctly, it was the only time he ran for 200 yards in a game. And of course, it was against the Eagles. But man, he just ran all over that Eagles team. But that was still Rich Kotite. And I believe at the time they were playing without Randall, who had gotten hurt previously, broke his leg in the Jets game. But those are the first 2 memories. But I cannot let this one go. This will be, until I'm done doing this podcast, this will always be this day in Philly sports history on today. And we're going to go back to 2015. And on this day in 2015, it was the biggest game in Temple football history. I don't care what anybody says about the Sugar Bowl in 35, some of the other games. They won the AAC champion. No. Biggest game in Temple football history. Number 21, Temple. Yes, kids, there was a time when Temple was ranked in the top 25 versus number 9, Notre Dame. ESPN Gameday was here down at Independence Hall. The Philly Fanatic was the guest picker when they did their picks. Of course, Lee Corso picked Notre Dame, and all the Philly fans booed him. But to me, this day in 2015 was the pinnacle of Temple football. And in a rare occurrence, the game actually lived up to the hype. The crowd was about split 50-50 Notre Dame and Temple, which when they probably first scheduled this game, you thought it was going to be a Notre Dame home game. But Temple showed up and showed out. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there. I had a 5-week-old at home, and it just was, or else I would have been there. And him and I watched it. I will say I had him on my lap. He was sleeping most of the time, but he did watch this game, even though he won't remember. Temple led 10-7 midway through the second quarter, and then they were down 14-10 at the half. And then coming out third quarter, they sort of battled back and forth. I think Notre Dame went up 17-7. Then a Jihad Thomas touchdown and an Austin Jones field goal gave the Temple Owls a 20-17 lead with 4 minutes left in the game. We are ready to beat the number 9 team in the country with 4 minutes left in the game. I remember my wife was so mad at me because I'm screaming. She's like, "You're going to wake up the baby." But I didn't care because this, like I said, was the pinnacle of Temple football. I remember going to games at the Vet my freshman year, and here we are, 4 minutes from beating Notre Dame in a nationally televised game where College Gameday was there. Unfortunately for the Owls that day, they could not stop DeShone Kizer and Will Fuller on that final drive. They lost 24-20, and the Owls hung close. That is exactly what I expected. I really thought they had a shot to win. There were talks that if Temple won this game, they'd be in the running for a possible, at the time, it was still the BCS, I believe. They would have been in the running for a BCS spot, sort of that at-large bid. And it was a fun day. I was never more proud. I usually don't do the moral victories, but for me, I was never more proud to be a Temple football fan than I was at that moment. And naively, I was looking back through my time hop this morning. I said, this is the first of many big moments for this football team. And really, it was the last big moment. And that was, like I said, that season, those first 8 games or whatever it was, Temple came in 7-0, just was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And the fact that looking back at some of the highlights of that game, the Owls made some mistakes, like that last interception by P.J. Walker. I still, if he would have just lofted a little bit more, it was, why can't I think? Robbie Anderson would have scored a touchdown. So, they were so close. But on this day in 2015, it was the pinnacle of Temple football. They lost to Notre Dame 24-20. Both teams ranked in the top 25. College Gameday was down at Independence Hall, and just a fun day for the Temple Owls. And will we ever see that again? Not with the way that the college football or in college sports landscape is now. But for one night in history, we were the center. The Temple Owls were the center of the college football universe, and that is why that will always be this day in Philly sports history on October 31st, because I'm getting hyped up just thinking about it and just disappointed at how far the football program fell. And there's a lot of factors. I don't want to get into that because I want to keep it positive, because on this night, Temple football was on top of the world. All right, finally today, our 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction spotlight is on George Benton, boxing. And he is known as the mayor of North Philly. He was a fighter and a trainer. He was phenomenal as a boxer. He compiled a 61-13-1 record with 36 knockouts from 1949 through 1970. And this is just amazing. Never knocked down, never knocked out. Not many guys can say that. Not even Mike Tyson can say he was never knocked down or knocked out. He had beat future champions Freddie Little, Jimmy Ellis, and Joey Giardello. Never got a title shot, though, despite being a number 1 contender. Some shadiness and unlikely some racism and things like that played into it. But he never got his shot to be a champion despite beating the champions and despite being the number 1 contender. It all came crashing down one night in 1970. The story is that a guy was hitting on his sister at a bar. One of his brothers beat him up, and the guy came back and said, "I am killing a Benton tonight. I don't care which one it is." Unfortunately, it happened to be George. He got shot in the back, and the bullet lodged right before his spine, so they could not remove it, but it essentially ended his boxing career. So from there, he put all his effort and energy into becoming a trainer. He studied under the legendary Eddie Futch. George was in Joe Frazier's corner for the Thriller in Manila, one of the greatest fights of all time. He was also in Leon Spinks's corner when he beat Muhammad Ali. So somehow, some way, he had the secret recipe for Muhammad Ali. He was in Evander Holyfield's corner when he beat Buster Douglas. Some of the guys he's trained, it looks like the Boxing Hall of Fame here. Evander Holyfield, Oliver McCall, Mike McCollum, Meldrick Taylor, and of course his prized possession, his prize fighter. He called him his masterpiece, and that is Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, who was one of the all-time greats, was trained by George Benton. All totaled, 14 world championships, 5 Olympic gold medalists, 8 gold glove champions, 11 AAU champions. He was the two-time trainer of the year. He's in the Pennsylvania Boxing Hall of Fame, the International Boxing Hall of Fame, the World Boxing Hall of Fame, and the man who champions would not fight takes his place among the greats in all Philly sports on November 7th when he is inducted into the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame on November 7th. All the information you need about the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame is in the description, as well as bios on the inductees. But today's 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction spotlight is on George Benton, a great fighter, probably a better trainer, and just one of the all-time greats for the sport. So looking forward to his induction on November 7th down at Live Casino. Like I said, he trained Joe Frazier, he trained Leon Spinks, he trained Oliver McCall, Pernell Whitaker, all of these guys. Just a phenomenal man, and he takes his spot among the legends of Philly sports on November 7th. So congrats to George Benton's family for his induction into the 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame induction class. On this day in 2015, Temple lost to Notre Dame 24-20 in a game they had the lead with 4 minutes left, and that defense, come on, to DeShone Kizer. It was just fitting, too, that Will Fuller was a Philly guy, and he caught the game-winning touchdown. The irony there is not lost on me. Let me know your thoughts on Shady. Is he a top 5 Eagle player of all time? I say yes, but what say you? Philly's hot stove is going to be heating up very, very soon. Congrats to the Dodgers. Excuse me. Ha-ha to the Yankees and their scumbag fans. Can't believe that there's not more outrage about that. Absolutely ridiculous. Freaking scumbags. Sixers are broken. Call the Back to the Future voice and text line and vent about the Sixers. Flyers tonight against the Blues. Be sure to be safe tonight. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for October 31st, 2024. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday. And until next time, happy Halloween.